Hi, this is Kara from the Special Needs Mom podcast.
And this is Angela from Especially Organized, Sensible Solutions for Special Needs Moms.
We have this heart for special needs moms. And so we thought, you know what, let's combine forces. And we have come up with what we're calling the Purge Party. And you can pretty much guess what it is. It's a party where we're going to come together and we're going to purge, or in general, accomplish a goal, a small goal together. So we have set this for January 27th, starting at 8 o'clock for my Pacific Coast people.
Which means 11 o'clock for all of you on the East Coast. So this is an opportunity. If you have something on your to-do list that has just been stuck there and you are wanting to move it up on the list, you're wanting to tackle, maybe it's a space or an area of your home or a category in your home that has just needed a little time and attention. This is your opportunity for you to be online with us while you work and have access for us to help you answer your questions, help guide you, and just serve you for those 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can tell like what we've designed is just this very high level of support for that project that you just haven't been able to tackle on your own. The thing that we are envisioning is that you get to leave this purge party feeling so accomplished because you did the thing. You started the year off getting that thing done that you were stuck on last year. And so it's a momentum builder, if you will. You can go ahead and sign up. We have a link ready for you. And we are offering this for $40 for the whole experience.
Absolutely. And we hope you'll join us. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great group of moms of special needs kids. So we all get each other. We all have an understanding of what it's like to have something on our to-do list, but just we haven't been able to tackle it yet. So I hope that you will join us. We're super excited to bring this to you, and we are thrilled to work with you.
All right. We'll see you all there. Hi, I'm Kara, life coach, wife, and mom to 4 incredible and unique children. It wasn't all that long ago that my son received a diagnosis that had my world come crashing down. I lacked the ability to see past the circumstances, which felt impossible, and the dreams I once had for my life and family felt destroyed. Fast forward past many years of surviving and not at all thriving, and you'll see a mom who trusts that she can handle anything that comes her way and has access to the power and confidence that once felt so lacking. I created the Special Needs Mom podcast to create connection and community with moms who find themselves feeling trapped and with no one who really understands. My intention is to spark the flare of possibility in your own life and rekindle your ability to dream. This isn't a podcast about your special needs child. This is a podcast about you. If you are a mom who feels anxious, alone, or stuck, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Hey there. Welcome back to yet another episode of the Special Needs Mom podcast. Is it too late to say Happy New Year still? Well, I'm still excited about it, so I'm going to go with it. Happy New Year. I am curious if the same kind of feeling is going on around your area than it is around mine. Where I live, it seems like everybody I know is dealing with the impacts of COVID. Some actually in very significant ways that have really kind of rocked my community, and others light, like in my home, where actually Levi, my special needs son, got sent home with COVID last week. Thankfully, it's a very mild case. And even with his underlying conditions, he is doing well. Miraculously, nobody else in my family has gotten it. So we are really hopeful that we remain well. And so if you are dealing with the current impacts of the COVID surge, then I just want to say, I'm sorry. Reach out. Let's chat. I was going to say, we see you, but that doesn't seem very, I don't actually see you. So that would be weird. Okay. This episode on the Special Needs Mom podcast is, I love actually how it came to be. I was having kind of a debriefing conversation via the way of Instagram about a recent excursion my family went on where we made the decision to have Levi, my special needs child, stay home while the rest of the family would go on the excursion. It was a snow trip. And so I got into this conversation about this and all the honestly icky feelings it brings up with Courtney, who is our guest today. And it really just it spurred me to say, hey, come on the show and let's talk about this. Let's dive a little deeper. Let's kind of go back and forth, share our experiences. And my belief is that you will connect to different parts of the stories that we both share and hopefully gain some insight on kind of where you might even get stuck, where you might feel like you're doing an amazing job, which is awesome. I'd love to hear about that. Maybe you have a different perspective than what we shared. So by all means, reach out. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences as well. So let me introduce Courtney to you. Courtney is a mom of six children. Actually, it's fun because she has been somebody that I have been Instagram friends with for quite a while. She has gone from Tennessee to California and back to Tennessee again. She is the wife of a veteran and really just all around funny. So I really enjoy all the different aspects of Courtney. And before we get into the episode, I do want to mention that my internet reception wasn't the best. You're going to notice a few missing words or little areas where there's little glitches, and I'm very sorry about that. Funny story is that I had no idea why I was all of a sudden having connection issues because I had my Ethernet connected to my computer where I was recording. And it wasn't until after the call ended that I went down to my office and I realized that the Ethernet cord was not plugged in. So here I am operating like I don't have any idea why I'm having issues. And like the cord was just hanging there. I thought it was hilarious. I apologize. You can understand everything. However, it is a little confusing of why there's like missing words. And that is why. So with that said, let's get into the episode. Courtney, I'm very excited to say that you are the first guest of 2022. Welcome to the show.
Yay! How cool.
And I'm actually I'm I don't know if I'm excited to talk to you about it. But I don't know that actually it's a conversation that I'm excited to have because it comes with a lot of mixed emotions. And what we're going to talk about, we're going to get into it in a little bit later, but ultimately what we're going to talk about today in this episode is the duality that is required as special needs moms of holding space for our children to be with us or to be away from us and having both be okay, permissible, and maybe even good. So we're going to get to that. But before we do, I want to get to know you a little bit and, of course, have our listeners know you. And we were just talking about how you had lived in my hometown, San Diego. And now you're in Knoxville. And tell us a little bit about your life and yourself as a special needs mom.
I'm a mother of 6 kids. Ranging in ages from 16 to 4. We live in Knoxville on a farm. First time we've ever lived on a farm before. Chickens, goat, horses next door, cows in the backyard, full-fledged farm life. My kids are back in public school. So Cohen is in public school again. And then my 2 younger sons are in public school and my 2 older children are in public school. I only have 1 at home, which has been the first time in 16 years, a 4-year-old. And she's a girly girl. So we do lots of cooking and playing and going to Walmart because Walmart's the closest place around here. And just hanging out, time that I haven't had in a long time. I'm finally getting again. So
I can relate to the special way of being with a 4-year-old after you've parented other children for years and years. And especially we'll get into the details of our special needs children. But so cause my oldest is 14, my youngest is 4, similar to you. You just got a couple extra in there. Wow. And so I love that preciousness of the 4-year-old. Oh, I love 4-year-olds. They are so
Yes.
sweet.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about, obviously respecting any privacy you want to, but what's your experience parenting a special needs child?
I would say I have, for me, it was either get out and do stuff or become a hermit at home. I was forced to get out because my husband was active duty and we were living in a different city. But even then, you can still hide out at home.
Mm-hmm.
And, home is safe. It's the safe place. It's comfortable. Your special needs child knows what works for them. You know what works for them there. When you're outside of the house, there are all different variables and equations and safety differences and places that need supervision that don't need as much supervision at home because you're not having to be as on all the time. And so for me, it really was hard. It was really hard on me emotionally because I am kind of a social butterfly to some degree. I like people. I like being around people. I like being able to get out and go. And children harness you anyway. You maintain home life with children, but even more so with a special needs child, do you feel more alone? So for me, it was very emotionally hard. In the earlier stages. She's 12 now. So there's been a major progression of time and a lot of changes have taken place during that time. But it's taken us 12 years to get to even this norm, quote unquote, norm of a place, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. And now that I learned, we were just talking before recording that your daughter and my son have the same birthday, literally on the same year. And I think I didn't realize it was full on the same year. So how ironic that you and I are both squishing a baby out of our body, get a C-section or not, but on the same exact day, 12 years ago.
Yes.
Incredible. So tell us a little bit give us a little texture, what some of the needs of your daughter, maybe give us a little bit about what her needs are, if you will, if you're open to that, so that we can understand the impact on your life and what it might have been like going out, and maybe even how old was she when you learned about her diagnosis?
Yes. Okay. Cohen was born in 2009, like your son. We didn't have a definitive diagnosis until 2012. It took us that long to get genetic testing. I even kind of fought off the idea of getting genetic testing. I come from a very religious background. And even with my upbringing, it was, we will just pray that this problem will go away. And you can't do that. And chromosomes don't work that way. And life doesn't work that way. And so that was a hard rearranging of my identity for me. And as a mother and as a woman and an overall human, of what that means to understand we are human. That's part of being a humanity. Cohen is not confined to a wheelchair. She has a very small eye astigmatism, so she is fully functioning. So I wouldn't want to say problems. That's not what it is, but her disability is developmental delays. So we're still working on reading. She's not reading yet. We're still working on just social cues and things like that, being out in public when she was younger or going to therapy sessions. I remember one time we went to a therapy session and I was just really tired of having to go to therapy over and over. She did get a lot of help in the beginning. You know, they get a lot of help and then they get help in school, and then everything else is kind of extra that you do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that help in the beginning was just appointment after appointment is what it felt like. You know, OT, PT, ST, 2 times a week, different days. And I remember going to an appointment and just being like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And her being agitated, she bit me on the breast.
Oh man.
And I said, you're going to have to take her back. I can't do this. I'm done for the day. I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And they did. I knew that group really well, and they were very kind and took her back. But, it was scary. It was scary getting out with her. It was always an unknown, worried about her health, even though her health wasn't in a wheelchair or she didn't have a tube or anything like that. It was like this invisible worry of what's going to happen, or what's this going to be like, or how am I going to, you know, help her if she needs help. It was just constant fear. I lived in a lot of fear with her as a child. And it's unhealthy for her. It's unhealthy for me. It's the best way I know to describe it, is just an unhealthy, just fear, a lot of fear.
Yeah, it sounds like it wasn't helpful. The fear was actually, as you described it, as unhealthy, was harming you, maybe even more than the thing itself happened.
Yes.
And I noticed that you're talking about a lot of fear in past tense. You're looking back at this time. And so thank you, first off, of giving us this picture, because I do think so many moms are actually still there now. And so they're really going to relate and resonate to what you're saying. So I think it's so good to kind of be able to look back and be like, that doesn't last forever. What do you feel like kind of got you over that part of it? Because we know, especially as mom, like there's never this place of arriving where, like, especially with what we're going to talk about later today, where everything's all rainbows and butterflies and all those things. But it sounds like that part is no longer as challenging for you. So what's changed for you?
I'm going to cry because this was huge. But I finally heard myself be able to say my daughter is disabled. She has disabilities. It's not just a special need. This is something that will affect her the rest of her life. And that acceptance allowed me to release a part of myself that I was holding on to, thinking it would change, it would change, it would change. And it's not whether or not it changes. I accept her the way she is right now.
As you say that, I notice for myself the physical reaction of feeling what you're saying, knowing part of it to be true as far as relating to the acceptance of what that brings. And so for me, I think I'm at a place knowing that I'm also wrestling with some parts that I haven't yet accepted. We hadn't planned on talking about this, but with children kind of getting into the preteen years, you obviously have older teenagers. These kids are getting older, right? Like our children with special needs are moving from soft and sweet 12-year-olds to hairy. No,
yes, hairy.
I'm laughing because
yes,
hairy and cranky and all the things. Teenagers,
hormonal. Yes,
hormonal. I'm laughing also because Levi is so soft still. I love how soft he is right now. He's so soft and squishy. He does not yet have the hormones. And I know this because his body does not make them. And so I'm savoring it as long as I can. But okay, side note, where was I going with that? I was going to say that I think what I'm dealing with is like this new acceptance of where we're at now. Mm-hmm. Whereas I look back and I'm almost actually confused by it. I'm like, wow, it's interesting. I thought I had arrived at peace on this. And it doesn't feel I don't feel that peace right now. And I can kind of look at it. Well, one, we've just been through a very trying time. So there's that. But then also recognizing, oh, like that it's, we're at a new place. And so it's like that new place of acceptance is what's available. And so I will certainly be looking for that and looking how to accept. So thank you so much for sharing that aspect, because I think no matter the diagnosis, as a parent of a child with any sort of special need or disability, that accepting them, holding the space to accept them as they are now and the possibility of their future is, I think it's the biggest gift to them, but also to us.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
So let's move into the conversation that we had decided that we wanted to have. So kind of, I'll give you guys a little bit of, even just, it was a couple days ago, actually, this has all happened pretty fast. I had decided to go to the snow with my family. So my family consists of my children, and one of which is Levi, our 12-year-old special needs child who has multiple disabilities. But what's pertinent to this story is he has a physical disability, which makes moving about and traversing a mountain a little harder. Well, excuse me. I say that in a way that doesn't kind of acknowledge his disability. It makes it much more challenging for him. Mm-hmm. And see, I'm still working on a lot of this. Like, I feel like it's like when you become a special needs mom, like it's learning a new language that you never knew that you were going to need. And not just like the language is the words, but like really understanding a different body that's not yours, and yet wanting to advocate for it. So that's a side note. Okay. So we were talking about the snow trip, and Levi said, I don't want to go to Mom Pa's, which is his grandparents' house. When he said this, I was very open to it because I thought, you know what, he has just had surgery. It would just be good in a lot of ways for him to take it easy. I didn't think he was going to really love the snow trip. And so I thought, okay, that's a good solution. So we checked in with my parents. They could have him. It was going to work out. And we did that. So the remaining family, the 5 of us, went on a snow trip, and Levi went with my parents. I would say in many ways, amazingly, we got to sled. Honestly, it was really, really fun. Mm-hmm. The snow was a little disappointing. You know, if anyone saw those pictures, they'd be like, Kara, that's not snow. That's like sprinkled white stuff on the ground. Like, that's dirt with a little bit of ice on top. Okay. So we do what we can in San Diego. There was one family out there that had a kiddie pool that they were using to slide with. And I thought, this is how San Diegans slide. And of course there was boogie boards. So yeah,
that's awesome.
That's a side comical note. Okay. So we had this experience, and obviously I had a little mental time to prepare for it. And there was this part that we were just talking about acceptance, that accepted that might have a better time if he didn't go, and that we would probably have a better time if he didn't come along with us. Because probably what it would have resulted in is him wanting to stay in the car, and likely one at least parent staying with him. Mm-hmm. So I had to really kind of, and that's kind of where our conversation came, as I kind of social media posts is kind of processing the straddling of a relief of like, I don't have to manage his needs along with other children in the snow, which is already a thing, right?
Right.
Yet also a sadness and a missing, because like, it's like even as I'm talking about it now, it's like we were going on a family trip, and I'm like, we weren't as a family because we weren't all together. Mm-hmm. And so the conversation you and I engaged with really was the start of, I think, a conversation in recognizing that things, sometimes I have defined family as together, like everyone's physical bodies always being together, recognizing I may need to rewrite that script, mm-hmm. because it's maybe not going to be the best situation for the physical bodies of our family to always be together. And mm-hmm. I want to turn it over to you to just kind of hear your initial thoughts. And I mean, you even shared a really great example about whale watching and how, like, ironically, you went together, yet you were all apart. So I'm going to turn over to you to tell that story a little bit.
So this past spring, we went whale watching in San Diego. We were hyped up about it. We were ready to see all these whales, go out on a big boat. It was a gorgeous day as usual, San Diego weather. We take our Dramamine beforehand. We were as prepared as we could be. We get on the boat and immediately, huge waves and big boat. So lots of motion. And my daughter started having anxiety, really bad anxiety. And so the remainder of that initial sitting down, moving out into the water, not even like getting out far into the water, just backing up into the water. And we're on the boat. No, you can't get off now. She was very upset, sick, just did not like it at all. I don't want to do this. I want off the boat. All those things. And so it was one parent taking her down below to the other floor, away from everyone else, while the other parent is with all the other kids up on the next deck. And that was yes. And that was the duration of the entire experience. So no, everyone, we made the best of it. I think that's what special needs parents think they have to do a lot of the time, is make the best of it together. But maybe making the best of it together is, like you said, not having to be everybody together in certain experiences. Maybe giving them the option, do you want to do this? This is what it's going to be like. Even though we went over those things with her, maybe us knowing, because I know for us, she can ride the tram in San Diego at the zoo, but there's also a platform underneath her feet. If we went skiing, there's no way she would do a lift without anything under her feet. She would be jumping off the lift.
Those lifts. I'm terrified of those things. I don't know why I go snowboarding. It terrifies me. Okay. But
she doesn't want to do certain things. She does certain things I want to do. You want to do certain things we don't.
Yeah. And I think the conversation again we engaged with was like kind of what I was concluding for myself as you were kind of posing questions. Cause I think you posed the question of, yeah, I'm thinking maybe more, we need to hire a babysitter sometimes now. And you were kind of wrestling with that, recognizing like, okay, I've been so fixed on fighting for everyone to be together.
Yes.
That I'm like, actually, I feel like I've been fighting the wrong fight, in the sense that like maybe the fight is to fight for me, not fight. I mean, that's not the right word, to process the disappointment for myself so that I can actually fight and advocate for him to be in a situation that he likes. So maybe that's hiring a babysitter. Maybe it's a special other trip. It could be obviously a variety of things, but I guess really kind of taking off the previous parameters of which I had and opening up to like rewrite the rules, which is something I talk about all the time. I think so often we as moms really recognize how much expectations and kind of norms that we put in our space that we just kind of accept. We don't question them. So what do you see yourself in kind of taking this information in? Like, what do you see that you might try or consider different?
Our youngest son wants to go ice skating. And like I said, everybody's fully functioning. She isn't in a wheelchair or anything. But maybe taking someone alongside with us, if that's not something she wants to participate in, somebody is there to sit with her, not just us as the parents doing it all the time. And maybe her seeing us enjoying each other, enjoying what we're doing and wanting to do it. And maybe not, maybe her being completely satisfied in sitting off and watching us, doing what we're doing, but also explaining to her, like we do, this is how the experience is going to be. Are you interested in doing this with us? Is this something you think you want to do? But there again, some special needs parents don't have that option. They don't have that option to sit and explain, do you want to do this with us? I can kind of reason with Cohen. Maybe you can reason with Levi. Some parents don't have that either. So I think about those kind of situations too, because those parents want to get out. And in that situation, I think it's very healthy that they have a sitter. But then all the other questions that come with a sitter, are they trustworthy? How much are you going to have to pay them? Is it family? How long have you known them? Those types of things that other parents don't worry about or think about like we do, or maybe do, but not to the heightened extreme that we do. So
let's go back to the sitter conversation, because I think that's one we could kind of spend a little time on. I want to go back to the ice skating story, because it actually recalled a time in the last year and a half where our family went ice skating. Everyone was excited to go ice skating. And in the back of my mind, I thought, I don't know if this is something Levi's physically going to be able to do. He wanted to do it. And so I was already torn, like, oh, like this is going to be so hard to watch him struggle, right? It's so hard, because I don't want to pre-put those, I don't want to be like, well, I really don't think you can do it, which is, I guess, what I was thinking. But I wanted him to explore. And sure enough, balance for him is hard on non-slippery surfaces. So putting skates on his feet wasn't a good situation for him. And he quickly decided he did not like ice skating. And so one of the parents went and sat with him while the other parent continued skating. And the reason I tell this story is because I think you push on something that I think I just experienced even with this snow. My other children asked multiple times, Mom, are you coming too? Because oftentimes I would have to work in a situation like that. But in this case, they're like, Mom, are you coming too? And the meaningfulness of them having both parents there was significant. And also for the experience it was a blast doing this snow trip. And so, and back to the whale watching thing, I'm sure you didn't envision taking turns sitting and not seeing any whales for this trip. That does not sound very much fun. And so recognizing that it's obviously this is complex, right? And then that's the reason why we're kind of looking at it and kind of just exploring it. But recognizing, I loved your idea of like bringing somebody along so that Cohen could experience it, but not yet have to have the load of you or your husband to support her. Likewise, I think that would be a good fit for Levi and I, or having them stay home, like in the sense of like Dan and I are truly free to do the activity with our other children. So what comes up is, like you said, the sitter conversation of like, it's not as easy as just, I think, going down the street and finding a sweet, semi-responsible teenager.
Yes.
So what would you say? I mean, I guess, have you hired a sitter to be able to leave Cohen and do another activity with your other children?
No, I have not. I have used my parents or in-laws back in the day. After we did active duty, we have not used anyone. So it's been a good 8 years since we've even had a sitter for Cohen that's not family. And there were options at that time. Some people may be listening and they may find this interesting, that if you are active duty, you have, it's not bereavement. What's the word? It's like
respite.
Respite. Yes. You have for bereavement for the parent. No, it's respite.
A little bit of both.
Yeah. It's respite where somebody can come and aid you in your home so that the family can go out and do other things. Even they recognize the family doesn't have to be complete in a situation, that they can separate them for the other family to get just some time apart. And I think that's healthy, one, to recognize that. And two, we didn't use it back then. I didn't know the people there. I didn't know anyone. It just did not feel comfortable. And I think that goes along with the special need parenting in the first developmental stages anyway. You're just like, I want my baby. I want my baby close. I don't know anybody. My baby knows me and I know my baby. Everybody else needs to leave us alone type of thing, just mama bear, just leave me alone. And so that's normal too. That's a normal approach to it. But I think if you can allow somebody in early on to help. I did have a friend who was a social worker or is a social worker, and I went to school with her when I was going to school for social work, like initially. And she came and helped with my children in the beginning when my children were very young. But then we moved away because my husband went active duty. So I didn't have that anymore. And you don't know who to trust. Like I said, that whole thing again. And that was hard. That was really hard. But also healthy too. We had to congeal as a family and do things as a family. But then there's also discovering we're all individuals also, and we all need breaks from each other. We don't have to spend so much time together doing each of these things together. We can all take a break when we want. We don't have to be with each other doing these things all the time. So
that's something else. Yeah, I wanted to put in here about, because one of my clients actually is building a home that won't, her daughter may not be able to access, like maybe in the future, but at this point in time, she doesn't expect that her daughter will be able to go there. Yet it's kind of the design of it is basically they have a place to go, basically have respite, reprieve from the needs of her daughter. Mm-hmm. And I think if you explain this to, I think like most non-special needs parents, they would be like, what? We don't understand. But if you know what it's like to manage explosive children, potentially violent children, self-harming children, nonverbal children, all of these things, it takes an extraordinary amount of emptying your tanks and reserves to be able to kind of support these kids. And so I think I love this example of hers because it's extreme, but I think it's an extreme in an inspiring way, in the sense that she has gone to the extent of having an actual home that she can go to where she doesn't have the impact. I mean, obviously she'll have the knowing that her daughter is not with her, just like on my stow trip, right? Like that's not going to go away. Yet her nervous system gets a chance to recover. She gets a time to like refuel herself. So there's that aspect of it. So back to kind of like so do you think that you're going to actively approach trying to find some sitters? I know now you're living, I don't think you have family where you're at now. So
we do have family where we're at.
You do?
We have both sets of grandparents. We've not asked them. But when we lived here a couple years before, my mom and his mom would take Cohen and do stuff alone. And Cohen loves it. She eats it up. So at this point, I think I would do that again is, your grandmother's going to take you out to dinner or shopping or something that's just for you and her time. And we're going to go do this if you don't want to go do it with us. And letting that be the case. Or her teachers are great at school, even wondering like if the teachers know of some kind of community within them or have some type of, resources there that we could use, that they know of sitters or other teachers that would be able to sit with her for a couple hours while we went and did things also. She loves to get out. The problem is not getting her out. It's like we went to Levi when he got there and he decided, I don't like it anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. This is not what I want to do. I don't want to ice skate. Yes, I wanted to go. Now I don't want to do what I said I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So it's not getting her out. She loves getting out. Hiking has been wonderful for that. Seeing San Diego hiking, we hiked all over San Diego and loved it. It's gorgeous. But when it comes to some other things that our other kids want to try, she'll say, okay, yeah, I want to try it. And we get to it and it's no. And then all of us feel the impact of that. We all have to go through those emotions with her, not just her. Everybody, the younger kids are like, what's wrong or what's going on or sullen or, countenance drops. You can feel it. And then we have to regroup, We have to be concerned about Cohen in that for however long, knowing that is, I don't really know how to word that, but I know you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's almost like it's the I don't know how to frame it in a way that doesn't kind of sound I don't know, I'll just go with it. It's almost like it's the vacuum where it's like it's the biggest problem at hand, if you will.
Yes.
That you can't ignore it. You have to address it. It'd be like ignoring it's bleeding, like to go get somebody a glass of water. You're like, I know that you both have needs, but right now this one is bigger and more present.
Yes.
So, and whether that's right or wrong, we don't even have to worry about that, but that's just our experience as special needs moms. Yeah, and that's kind of why I mentioned earlier about the idea of like the experience kids got to have with having both parents present and available to them for like in our case, the snow trip. It was distinctly different because they are now used to having to also have us be available to manage the needs of Levi. And that's their constant. That's what their norm is.
Yes.
It doesn't make it easy, but it is what their norm is. So as you were speaking, I kind of came up with just kind of processing in this further as you were kind of describing in a scenario where like you might talk to Cohen about like, hey, do you want to come? Like, what do you think? Kind of looking at what's ahead. And kind of how I was looking at it is like really accepting that she'll want to go, but she may want to do that. We'll use the ice skating. She may not want to do the ice skating. And that acceptance of kind of, and maybe even it's predicting to some extent of what might happen, allows you to potentially prepare for either way. Mm-hmm. So like in this case, you might have said, okay, like she's going to come and we're going to bring along somebody to come with us so that in the event she's not into it, we have plan B. Mm-hmm. I feel like that would have potentially given you the freedom to like have both her with you and also be totally okay if she wasn't into it. Mm-hmm. But what's required before that is the acceptance that this may not be a good setup for these children. And I think the reason I put that in there is because I think that that's the part that I had been resisting. Like even if our Levi situation, where it's, I think I have been so, the word that's coming to mind is forceful, and it's probably the right word. I was trying to think of a less forceful word. Kind of forceful about like, you can do it, we can be together, and kind of making it all happen, that I think I missed the part where it was like accepting that because of his needs, that may not be that fight might not be worth it. So I think it's kind of I'm starting to put pieces together in my head as you kind of speak. So thank you for that. Any other thoughts on that?
I think the part I will struggle with, though, like you, is not being together, because there is this mom guilt and this pain, longing that you want everybody to be together, enjoying the experience together. And yes, there is some of that with hiking. Everybody goes hiking, everybody can walk, but there are special needs families where the child can't walk. Levi has a wheelchair. There are experiences that we have that you can't have, that you have to have original to how your family functions and works. And so, but that all of us as special needs parents have this longing to be together as a family, as a whole, but also accepting that might not look the same way each time we experience something. And so there is a loss. It is a loss. There is a loss there.
Yeah, I think you've really highlighted very well that there's a grieving here of like not being able to be together in all cases. I want to go back to the scenario though, because I think what happens actually is that what happens is our brain does what's called like a thought error, where like, I'll use the whale watching experience. It's a good illustration where you thought by going together that you were going to be together, in which case we can clearly see like your family together, even though you all bought tickets and intended on going whale watching together. And so I'm just going to use this as an example. It sounds like together wasn't an option for whale watching. Like it just didn't happen. We can look back at history and be like, together did not happen. That is a fact. And we can recognize, okay, like let's just, for the purposes of this conversation, together is impossible or not currently available to you. Or I look in situations where, like when Levi was living in the hospital and I'm living at home, or my other kids are living at home. Together was not possible during that, and especially times of COVID. So what can happen is then we look at this impossibility or this lack of being able to change that circumstance. That feels like where we have to stop, because we're like, clearly we can't fix that part. We can't go convince Cohen that she shouldn't be anxious and she should just enjoy the experience, right?
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
What I want to put in people's minds, I'm going to be contemplating this as well, is what is it that we think together is going to get us?
Mm.
Like, what is it that we're really after? So together is how we thought it was supposed to be. And even as I think about it now, I think, well, together, I mean, like that, like I said earlier in the episode, what family is supposed to be like. But clearly that's not true, because your family is a great example. Your husband, I don't know if he was ever deployed, but like families are still families, even if, there's all sorts of reasons why families don't always live together and are not physically together.
Yes.
So for me, together feels like connected. It feels like supportive. It feels loving. It feels like that
Freedom.
Each person, freedom. Yeah, that's a really great way of, yeah, exactly. And so it's like, okay, if that's actually what we're actually after the experience as both moms and leaders of our family that are after that. And if together is not the answer, then how can we go create that? And a better question would be, who do we need to be to go create families that are connected, that are loving, that are free, and kind of look at it from that angle? Because I think, and I get it on this one, because I feel like it feels so like there's just so many stopping points and obstacles when it comes to physically being together or physically doing the same things, or even like socially doing the same things. Because some of these kids, great example, if they're not verbal, probably going to a movie is just not a good for them to enjoy life. So is there anything that comes to your mind for the question of what do you think that you really want? If together is essentially a means to an end, what do you think that you want for your family?
I want for us all to feel acknowledged. And even as I think about that, acknowledgement isn't all usually want at the same time. Usually it's in different pockets. Maybe it could be in the kitchen. Maybe it could be on the way to school. Maybe it could be camping with a couple of them. Maybe it could be at a movie with a different one, doing things that they enjoy. That doesn't mean you can't have a family experience or say, we want to go, all of us try this. I think the goal, even in those family experiences, is that you're wanting everybody to feel acknowledged and loved. That's the whole reason why we're wanting to do any of these things that we do as a family. We're wanting to love on each other. We're wanting to spend quality time with each other. But maybe that quality time and that experience it's not the only way to do it. There are other ways to do it too.
So, well, I think that this by no means was an exhaustive conversation about this. I think we could probably continue many conversations on this. I think it'd be fun to actually, have an even larger community conversation to get thoughts on it. But we are going to wrap this episode up. As we wrap this episode up, is there anything that we didn't get to talk about that you kind of wanted to add to this conversation? Anything that comes to your mind that you want to close this up with?
No, but I love what you said about acceptance. If there's one word I could frame over the conversation, it would be acceptance. Acceptance of grieving losses and experiences, acceptance of coming to terms with having a child with disabilities or is that disabled, acceptance of those things in a new year. As we're approaching 2022, the ability to accept And that will come at all different times. Maybe it doesn't come at one specific time that you're looking for it. Because for me, it's taken 12 years to accept that she is disabled. I didn't even want to go to that appointment to learn that she had genetic deformity on her 8th grade chromosome. I did not want to go, Kara. I was like, I'm not going. And then I drove myself and got the news because I was so bent on praying it away.
Mm-hmm.
That it would go away, that God would remove that God would make it better, and that's not how God works. And I know a lot of special needs moms that are going through that or have gone through that and walked that road and finally realized that's not it. It's acceptance. But there's levels of acceptance. Just like you said, later on, there's going to be levels of different acceptance as she walks out her teen years, or as people have already started asking, and I'm sure they're asking about you, about guardianship. Have you gotten that now that you're out in California?
I haven't. I think it is the topic of his future is more in my space because he's getting older, but because Levi doesn't have an intellectual disability, it's still so uncertain on what he's going to do with his life. Right. Mm-hmm. And some days I'm like, oh yeah, he'll totally got this. Other days I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And here's the thing. And I want to add this kind of as we wrap up, is because it kind of goes back to what I was saying about setting yourself up to actually have both options be okay. Both options for the kids to go or not go. In my mind, I have an equal, and maybe it's not completely equal, but we'll go with it, vision that I'm okay with either one, of him living with us forever or of him launching and doing something on his own. To me, either one is okay. I've accepted either one as a possibility.
I haven't yet. I have not.
You're like, I have not.
I have not gotten that far on that one.
Well, that's okay, right? Like, we are all on our own journey, and and actually, and maybe as I get closer, I will have to come on to new levels of acceptance, because we're always growing and changing, and how we think something is going to be very different things. But it's just something that one was easier for me than some of the other things. So we all have things that we are working on developing kind of peace with, essentially. So I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully all the little glitches we had in our internet work out okay. So sorry if you guys noticed a little issue with the internet. You know what? I'm sorry. Apparently today wasn't our day. But a real privilege to have this conversation with you. Just thank you for bringing your light and your authenticity, and just your connection to what is available to you and your children. It comes across over here so strong, and so I thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. One more thing before we officially wrap up this show. Sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts, I have the experience of wanting more. I'm listening at the very end thinking, I sure wish that episode didn't end. I invite you, if you feel in any way the same way, I invite you to the Special Needs Mom podcast community, which is a free group that I host on Facebook, where we as a community of fellow moms who listen to this podcast and are experiencing life in similar shoes, get to talk to one another, get to share stories, get to actually interact. I hope you'll consider joining. See you over there.